All right, welcome back to Bleck and AZ's Fantasy Hour. Just AZ in the studio this week, but we do have phone a friend Bleck at home. Can we hear you, Bleck?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm working remote from the Caribbean.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. Out in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Caribbean K-Town. Before we get into this week's episode, just always want to mention you can listen to us every week on WEBR Wednesday nights 6 to 7 and on WLVL Sunday mornings from 11 to 12. We are on Instagram and YouTube as well, Bleck and AZ. We upload videos every week so you can catch the whole episode on YouTube and you can catch some clips and some more info on Instagram as well. This week's episode, we are going to be talking about our playoff predictions. We kind of did a little brief ranking of each conference and then kind of how we view the playoff picture coming together entering the season. A lot of this could change between here and now. Still in the middle of the off season. We haven't even gotten to training camp yet. So there's going to be some injuries. There's going to be some more post-free agency signings like Stephon Diggs. Who knows with Brandon Ayuk at this point. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At this point of the season, this is how we view these conferences. I want to start off with the AFC. How's that sound?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, the AFC was a lot easier for me, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. I kind of did like some quick little tiers here just to, I don't know, make it a little easier for me. I do want to preface, without Bleck here, I had to make my own notes this week, so it's a little more difficult for me. I'm a little more off the cuff, and so this was kind of thrown together a little last minute, but I think I make it work usually.
Yeah. I'm sticking around. I'll keep things on track if necessary.
Yeah. Feel free to let me know what's going on over there. I know you got a lot more written down than I do.
Yeah, definitely.
With my bottom three teams, though, I have the Jets at 16, the Browns at 15, and the Dolphins at 14 in the AFC. How's that sound to you?
Yeah, I got the same three teams in this bottom tier of mine, except I've got it ordered a little bit differently. I've got Miami at 16. Jets 15, Cleveland 14. With Miami, I have very, very low expectations. I actually kind of feel more bad than Malik Willis than I do feel excited about the season that he's going to have to endure. Just every time we get back to it, like position for position, especially with offensive skill players, which tends to kind of be our focus in this fantasy lane that we're in. They've just got Achane and Greg Dulcich, your boy. And,
yeah.
I
don't sleep.
I can't quite get past that. I don't know how they're going to score this year. Big plays by Achane's only going to get them so far, and they'll have a few, but I'm not counting on a lot of offensive production from Miami this year.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me what it came down to was that, I think I view Malik Willis as probably the best quarterback of all three of these teams.
I might agree with that.
Yeah. Achane's probably better than any player on the Browns offense right now. And then you can make a case, obviously, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. But I think sure. I just kind of want to give the Dolphins front office just a little bit benefit of the doubt. I really don't expect Aaron Glenn to really last very long this season. I expect the Jets to fire their coach like halfway through the year, if not sooner. And I just don't have any faith in the Browns organization because why should I? So I'm going to give the Dolphins the benefit of the doubt. And, all these are pretty interchangeable. They're probably easily the three worst teams in the AFC.
Yeah.
But, you could go either way. Honestly, I think that we kind of have maybe forgotten maybe how bad the Browns are because we were so excited about their draft. You could probably say that, obviously Myles Garrett was the best player on the team. And then after that, Jim Schwartz, you can make a case, was maybe the second most valuable member of the team. And with both of them gone this year, I just don't really see the Browns being very competitive at all, to be honest with you. Jared Verse is a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's definitely nowhere near Myles Garrett level of player.
Yeah.
And if Deshaun Cosby starts most of the season, I can't really, even Shador really, I'm not a huge Shador fan personally. It's a fun story. He's a fun guy to root for. I'd rather see him play, that's for sure. But I don't know if I really think he has the arm talent to hang in the NFL for very long. But, that was pretty much the easily bottom three for me. What were you saying?
For sure. Don't go sleeping on Taylor Green, first of all.
I hope he gets some fun packages.
The quarterback they chose in maybe the 6th round. And I mean, you're completely on the money with Myles Garrett and Jim Schwartz being two of their most valuable assets to their organization completely. So there's obviously a step back probably to be expected. But, I mean, it's funny. We usually split hairs at the top of some of these rankings, but we're kind of splitting hairs at the bottom of them because all three of these teams have really set themselves up to prepare for the draft next year.
For sure.
In Miami's case, it might be Jeremiah Smith, but these other two teams are looking for a franchise quarterback.
Definitely.
And just for whatever it's worth, I give Cleveland the nod at the head of this tier. Again, not very high praise. In part because Monken's coming over, and Monken had a lot of success with the run game in Baltimore, and I would say that's probably their strongest way to attack on offense going into this year. So, again, splitting hairs really doesn't matter. All these teams are drafting in the top 5 of the draft here. So
I would agree.
Not a whole lot of brownie points to fight over for this.
No, we don't need to argue over who's the worst here all day.
No.
I think we could all agree they're not that great at teams. Moving into my next tier here, though, in the AFC are two a lot funner teams. I have the Raiders at 13 and the Titans at 12. Two teams that are kind of ascending. They both have their quarterbacks. They both have their coaching staff. They've made some moves in free agency to bolster the defense and some of the weapons around their young talent. And I think that while neither of them are ready for playoff contention necessarily right away, their team's trending in the right direction. That'll be fun to watch this season.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Had them in the same order, same tier. I am a little bit more excited about Tennessee. If either one of those teams were to somehow, find lightning in a bottle this season, I think it might be them.
Definitely just given their division. For
sure. For me, I'm sure you have Pittsburgh in your next tier, but it was a tough call. But just the way you kind of laid it out, Tennessee and the Raiders are very interchangeable just with the situations they're in. But as far as the way this season's going to play out, I struggled to decide whether I wanted to slip Pittsburgh in this tier or bump them into the next tier. But, I mean, you said everything about it as well as you can.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I do have Pittsburgh. I actually have, moving forward to this next tier here, I actually have Indy at 11 and then Pittsburgh at 10 in their own tier. And those are just teams that are right outside of my playoff cusp. They could potentially compete for a playoff spot. Obviously, the Steelers have made the playoffs how many years in a row or whatever it is. And Indy was seriously. And Indy was one of the best teams in the league the first half of last year. I just think that there's too many question marks for both these teams, whether that's the injury for Daniel Jones or who's Aaron Rodgers going to be this year, or Mike McCarthy coming over, Mike Tomlin leaving. They're both kind of just aging teams as well. They don't really have a lot of promising young talent. They're kind of in this purgatory spot right now, where it kind of is hard to get much better when you're just constantly winning 7, 8, 9 games every year. Kind of like how the Bills were for a long time in their drought years. It's a tough spot to be in. It's not necessarily the worst spot, but I mean, I guess it depends how you view it, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's no man's land. I would I'd rather be any of the teams in the first two tiers and any of the teams outside of these tiers moving forward in this ranking. So, like you said, I mean, I want to. Number-wise, I have Indy at 9 overall.
Who'd you have at 11? Steelers?
11, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, and then I actually have Jacksonville at 10.
Okay.
A little bit of skepticism. I think ETN was a big part of the way that offense moved, but they have plenty of weapons in the pass game. Tootin showed some flashes, but I'm kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves here. I know we'll touch on that in the next tier. But, yeah, I think Indy's got with the way they played the first half of the season, I mean, they were looking at the 1 seed up until week 8.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
I'm a little bit more willing to give them a little more credit or a little more benefit of the doubt that they might be able to repeat that kind of magic. But, I mean, like you said, not a lot of young, promising assets.
Yeah, I mean, I could make a case for either of them, as far as pushing for potentially a playoff spot, and with Indy being in what I would consider probably the weakest division. In the AFC. I think they do have a chance. Like I said, they lost Michael Pittman. They didn't really replace him. They gave Alec Pierce a huge contract. I don't know how much I really truly believe in Alec Pierce. I love Tyler Warren. Jonathan Taylor obviously is one of the best running backs in the NFL. It's really just that Achilles injury for me, and it's like.
Yeah.
I mean, as well as Daniel Jones was playing, it's like 10 games of Daniel Jones.
That,
Yeah, it just doesn't really.
We saw the Daniel Jones experiment.
Even if Daniel Jones didn't tear his Achilles, I would still be having questions about Daniel Jones. You know what I mean? It's because we've seen 7 years of Daniel Jones. So now Daniel Jones coming off a torn Achilles, it's just it's really hard for me to get behind it. And we saw how quickly that team crashed when Daniel Jones wasn't playing as a top 5, top 7 quarterback. But yeah, I mean, if he comes back and he can get back to how he was last year, that team could be really good. And obviously, they traded 2 firsts for Sauce Gardner last year, so they obviously feel strongly about themselves.
A full season and off season with a shutdown corner like that can definitely help you out too. But it's tough to pencil them into a playoff spot just with how stacked the rest of the AFC is, really.
Yeah, I agree. And then moving into my next tier here, I have. So this next tier is pretty much like what I consider like the wild card teams, or teams I think are competing for the wild card. I have the Patriots at 9, the Jaguars at 8, and then I have the Bengals at 7 and the Chiefs at 6. So I have the Bengals and Chiefs making the wild card, and then I have Patriots and Jags right outside. But all of those are pretty interchangeable in my opinion. I think there's a strong case for each team, and then there's a strong case against each team. How do you have these guys ranked?
It's funny. So, like I said, I had Jacksonville at 10, so a little bit further down my list. But I have New England also at 8, Kansas City at 7, but I do have Cincinnati at 5. I have a team that's kind of slotted in between Kansas City and Cincinnati. My reason being with Cincinnati as highly as I have them is that they have the 32nd strongest schedule going into the season. So
they have the weakest schedule?
That is by definition then the weakest schedule of all 32 teams in the league this year. And I mean, playing in a division where they should be able to pick up easy 4 wins, even if they split with Pittsburgh, they should be able to split with Baltimore, I think. But nevertheless, if they can be healthy for 80% of the season, I really don't see why they can't make a playoff spot this year.
No, I agree, and that's why I have them right there. Even if Joe Burrow were to miss time, I think that they made enough additions on the defensive side of the ball where even if they can go from being a bottom 5 defense, bottom 3 defense, and just be a top 20 defense, I think that'll be enough. And I think Joe Flacco as the backup can keep them afloat. I think that Jake Browning was a little too turnover prone, and that was kind of what led to the demise there. But we saw Joe Flacco take a Browns team to the playoffs just not too long ago. So I think that even if Joe Burrow were to sustain an injury again, Joe Flacco could keep the boat afloat for long enough before they'd still be able to win enough games. I do have the Patriots and Jaguars right outside of there. Both teams were obviously really good last year, 2 of the best teams in the AFC. I just think that, both of those teams were coming off of poor seasons, had some weaker schedules, Patriots specifically. Well, the Patriots did make the addition of A.J. Brown. I still need to see it again in the regular season because, I mean, their defense looked great in the playoffs, but they weren't really that great in the regular season, and those playoff teams they played against, weren't necessarily at their healthiest, and they kind of got some weaker competition. And again, once they played the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, they got pretty exposed. The Patriots obviously could still push, and they do have the luxury of playing the Dolphins and the Jets twice a year, same as the Bills.
Right.
But outside of that, they do have a tough schedule this year, as we know. So do the Bills. So we'll see how they fare against those teams. And then for the Jaguars, same thing like you said, man. I just really think that the loss of Etienne and not really replacing him just is going to really hurt that team. Liam Cain likes to run the ball a lot. We saw it in Tampa Bay with Bucky Irving and Rashad White. And I just don't know if Basil Tutin and Chris Rodriguez will be able to kind of repeat that success. And I definitely don't really count on Trevor Lawrence having 9 or 10 rushing touchdowns again. I kind of expect there to be some regression there as well.
Yeah, totally agree. One of the funny things about New England as I was going through and making some of these notes is that they are tied for 4th in the most likely teams to make the playoffs, according to some of these sports books out there. So they're laying at minus 225 to make the playoffs, which is actually kind of crazy considering, we have them hustling for a playoff spot. And really, I did have a tough time deciding between New England and Kansas City for that 7th seed. I know I was kind of down on Pat Mahomes on our quarterback ranking show, but there's a lot more that goes into like what's going to happen with Kansas City this year. I think they have a lot more questions than answers for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I was kind of making these predictions or rankings, especially in the AFC, just going into it, I just had a really hard time not putting the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs all in the playoffs.
Totally agree.
Which just led me to only leave one other wild card team there, which basically came down to Patriots, Bengals, and Jaguars, and I think I just landed on the Bengals there. Because kind of things like you said, whether it's the schedule or like we talked about improvements on defense, I just think the Bengals are due. I think the Bengals just kind of have like a lot. It's like a make or break year for them, honestly. If they miss the playoffs for 4 years in a row, there's going to be a lot of question marks there, whether that's frustration at the quarterback position or even Jamar Chase. If the quarterback, I would imagine Zach Taylor would get fired. I mean, there's no way they keep Zach Taylor after missing 4 straight playoffs. So that would just, like I said, it's a really big season for the Bengals, and I think they have to find a way to make the playoffs, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And then you said, who did you say you have the Bengals at 5? So who'd you have at 6? The Chiefs?
At 6, I have Denver.
Denver.
The Chiefs are at 7.
Got you.
So, moving on to probably your last tier here. I have Denver at 6, and then our division winners, which, by deduction, from 4 to 1, I have Houston, the Chargers, Buffalo, and Baltimore.
Nice. Yeah, I have. So, my last tier was Broncos at 5, and then I have, Texans 4, Chargers 3, and then I have Ravens 2 and Bills 1. So, pretty close.
Yeah. Just for the record, again, to make the playoff odds, Buffalo is 3rd at minus 320, and the Ravens are minus 390, second in the NFL. And for me, to give Ravens the number 1 was a strength of schedule play. They have the 29th hardest schedule, which is one of the easier schedules in the league. Bills have the 11th hardest schedule going into the season. Kind of splitting hairs, but
that's a big difference.
Based on that, based on that, though, is kind of what I went with. Because, you pin them up against each other in the playoffs, and Buffalo's won every time. Have we lost to the Ravens?
No, the Ravens are awesome. I think the biggest thing for me is just the health. Josh Allen's just the Iron Man of the NFL, and Lamar just hasn't stayed healthy every single season. He isn't missing time all the time, but there's been a number of seasons where, he's missed enough games where the Ravens were kind of out of it. It's definitely close, though, and it's interesting with these two teams with new coaching staffs coming into a new era for each team. It's funny because similar to Joe Brady hire, with the hire of Jesse Minter and Declan Doyle, I just kind of wasn't very familiar with those guys, and it came off as kind of like a shock to me almost. I'm like, who are these guys, going from such an established coach like John Harbaugh over to these guys. And the more that I've learned about them throughout the offseason, the Ravens are primed for a big season, I think. The way Jesse Minter had the Chargers defense operating last year and the things he did with Derwin James and some of those pass rushers, it'll be really interesting to see what they do with a guy like Kyle Hamilton and some of the guys they have there. Speaking another comparison, Diane Henley versus Roquan Smith. I think the Ravens have one of the best rosters in the league, and I think with a couple of bright young coaches leading the way, they're primed to take a big step. For sure. I agree. For me, those top 2 teams. And the same thing with the Bills, though, really. I think that maybe with a more aggressive approach, kind of just taking the however you want to word it, like the ceiling that we had there with Sean McDermott away, I think sky's really the limit. And especially on the defensive side of the ball, if we can get more aggressive and rush the passer more successfully and just really attack teams a lot more than kind of letting teams come to us, I think that the Bills could find a way to get the 1 seed this year. And I think that, again, they have a lot to prove as well.
For sure. It's funny. We're talking about these top 2 teams, and they're both teams that replaced their head coaches after being some of the longest tenured coaches in the league.
The Bills probably won the most games in the last 5 years, something like that, right?
Right. Super unusual that you're trying to decipher which teams are going to come out on top, and there's just so much unknown with how the teams are going to operate under new coaching staffs.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think it's going to be really exciting to see both these teams just like new versions of themselves, really. And it's kind of interesting with Joe Brady and Declan Doyle both kind of have like a Sean Payton background. Be interesting to see the kind of offenses they implement and the similarities there. Then the other two teams, we both had Texans and Chargers, right?
Yeah, 3-4.
Yeah, I think the Texans kind of have just a clear path to win that division. I think the other teams have too many question marks, and I think the Texans' defense is just too good.
It's funny, as long as that defense can stay healthy. Usually we're talking about if the offense can stay healthy, if the quarterback can stay healthy. But if they could roll out Davis Mills and still win 10 games this year.
I agree.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I 100% agree, and I think the acquisition of David Montgomery, they'll be able to kind of just hammer the rock and play defense, and I think that's what they want to do. I mean, if they could just run the ball, play action, Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins downfield, and then just play defense, and that's exactly what they want to do, they'll win 10, 11, 12 games, I think.
Yeah, not a doubt.
And the Chargers, a team we've talked about a bunch this offseason, they're just ready to take that leap, I think. Mike McDaniels is a huge pickup for them. And as long as that offensive line can stay healthy, Justin Herbert could potentially be in MVP conversations. I think the Chargers are... Jesse Minter is a huge loss. I know I just mentioned that to the Ravens, but I do expect Jim Harbaugh to figure it out on the defensive side of the ball. And if that offense can take a step, they're ready for a big year.
As big of a loss as Jesse Minter is as much of a gain that Mike McDaniels is. And we've been clamoring over this addition more than really any other coaching acquisition this offseason. And, I mean, we're super stoked on what the Chargers offense is going to be able to do this year. But just in slotting them third, it just seems like the West is going to be so competitive, though we're talking about Houston potentially winning 10, 11, 12 games based on their defense, that's kind of what the total is going to have to be for the Chargers to win that division and lock up a 3 seed. It'll be interesting to see how the seeding plays out and how the matchups in the playoffs really break down.
Yeah, I know. Right now, looking at it, I mean, Bengals, Ravens, first round, Chargers, Chiefs, Texans, Broncos. I mean, that's how I have it. I mean, that would be a crazy first round for the AFC.
Yeah, and I mean, even mine, I've got Cincinnati going to Houston, Denver going to the Chargers, and Kansas City coming to Buffalo. I mean,
yeah, KC, Buffalo, first round, of course.
Yeah.
I know. I think I did almost have the Ravens first. And I thought about that when I was looking at it. It's definitely not something I even want to project.
No.
That was kind of. I mean, I'm not really too surprised that our AFC was so similar. I think the AFC is a little more cut and dry, at least at this point of the offseason. But the NFC was so tough for me.
Breaking out these. I mean, you kind of let me know that you had 5 tiers going into this, and I can't find a way to separate the second last tier into 2 separate tiers, so I've got 4, but I'll put you on here.
Well, my last tier is just one team. It's just
same.
it's literally just the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are in a tier of their own in the NFC, and not for good reason.
They'd be a tier in their own if we did the entire league.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I have a hard time not slotting them as the worst roster in the NFL, really, and then on top of that, to be in the toughest division, it's just brutal. I don't really see this team winning more than like 3 games max. I got the Cardinals at 16 all by themselves as the worst team in the NFC, and I think that's pretty hard to argue.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you feel 3 is their max, you got to go hit that under, because it's 3.5 right now, and it's like plus 100 just to get under 3.5. They have the hardest schedule in the league.
That's free money.
Yeah, plus 2,000 to make the playoffs, which is honestly egregious. It should be way higher than that.
Should be way higher, honestly.
It just there's
what is even their path? I mean, there's no way they win the division.
Right. I mean, yeah, no. Their path is to somehow find their way into the NFC South, and even still, that's
they need a realignment. That's their path.
Yeah.
My next tier, though, it was really tough. Honestly, I really did have a hard time with the NFC. Because besides the Cardinals, I could see a realistic path for basically every team besides the Cardinals to making the playoffs.
Yeah, that's so true, and some of it is because they are in the NFC South. Sure.
True. I should have just put them in a tier by themselves, honestly.
Yeah, this tier is just the South.
Yeah. I have Carolina at 15. This is my next tier. I have Carolina at 15, Atlanta at 14, and then I have the Vikings at 13.
Okay. I don't even know how to kind of side-by-side this. I have Carolina way...
Just do your 15, 14, 13.
So my 15 was the Giants, and I really don't even like it, but it's mostly just kind of like injury scares. Scatterbo left or missed time, Dart missed time, Neighbors missed time. That's their entire offense.
For sure.
I know that they have a new head coach, which should inject some life into them and kind of bring them back to being like a legitimate, at least competitive team in the NFL, and as well as the NFC. But I think it's just like injury fears for me that leave the Giants that low. And then I have Atlanta and New Orleans and Tampa Bay ahead of them. But it's very much NFC South. Don't know what to do with these teams. They all have pieces that make me want to believe in them, but it's Atlanta doesn't have a legitimate starting quarterback that the team knows is their starting.
Yeah, that's why I have them so low. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, having Bijan Robinson and Drake London is a beautiful pairing for any quarterback.
And Kyle Pitts,
not
bro.
Really, I didn't want to ignore Kyle Pitts, but for the sake of speaking of elite athletes at their position, I mean, Bijan and Drake London. Bijan's the top running back in the league. Drake London's a top 10 receiver in the league.
Yeah.
It's puzzling to put a team with those kind of assets so low, but I can't I can't believe in Tua right now until I see it the way that he was playing with Tyreek Hill once upon a time. It's just tough.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I feel the same way. That's why I have them at 14. I just think that they don't really. First year of a new head coach, they don't really have the quarterback situation figured out. Defense is kind of still a question until we see it. Like I said, I do see it. I could make a case for any of these teams to make the playoffs, and like you said, some of it is just because they play in the NFC South. But I have them down here. I don't know why I put Carolina so low. I think it's just because I feel like every other team in the NFC South. Well, first off, they won the NFC South, winning 8 games, so they're going to play the hardest schedule out of all the NFC South teams. On top of that, I just feel like every other team in the NFC South kind of made additions to make them better, and I just don't really think Carolina did much. I think Rico Dowdle was like a huge catalyst for their season last year, and he's gone.
Sure.
There was a month stretch where he was playing like the best running back in the league, and they were beat the Rams at one point, I just don't think they did enough, in my opinion. They lost Rico Dowdle. They didn't replace him. I don't know how much I believe in Jonathan Brooks. They got some offensive line help in the draft.
Jalen Phillips was their big acquisition in free agency.
That's true. Yeah.
Helpful, but that's not going to move the needle. I can understand that.
Yeah, he's kind of like how do I want to word it? Like, there's a lot more projections with him, I feel like, he only had like 6 sacks last year. He was a highly drafted guy. He's shown flashes, but paying him $30 million to be a double-digit sack guy when he really hasn't been a double-digit sack guy.
Right.
Again,
paying him $30 million doesn't put the stat sheet together.
I do love J.C. Horn, and I do think that they do have a solid defense. But they're a team, again, that I think that like when they're at their best, they're playing solid defense, they're turning the ball over, and they're running the ball. And with a running back room of Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks, I just don't know how well they're going to be able to do that this year. They could. This is all interchangeable for me. It's so tough in the NFC. And then I have the Vikings at 13. I haven't seen Kyler Murray play at an elite level in so long, and again, until I really see it, I just can't really count on it. They did win 8 games last year, even with pretty terrible quarterback play, but they did trade away Jonathan Grenard, and they didn't really do too much. They added like Jawan Jennings. Aaron Jones is halfway out the door. Jordan Mason isn't really anything special, unfortunately.
Right.
I just don't really see the Vikings. It wouldn't surprise me if this team won 14 games, not like 2 years ago. So who knows with them? But I just am less excited about them than I am about my next tier of teams.
That totally makes sense, and I do have Minnesota a little higher. We'll address it when we go over that number in the ranking for me. But I think this might be Justin Jefferson's best quarterback that he's ever played with. I think that there's something to be said about that.
Definitely,
he'll have a great season. Don't know if it'll translate to more than 8 wins for the team, but I mean, they play in a super competitive division.
Yeah, that was also a part of it for me as well.
The second most competitive division in the league, maybe. Depends how you feel about the AFC West, I guess.
Yeah.
But still, super, super competitive. Everybody's on the up. So, yeah, Minnesota just kind of has to be the odd man out in that case.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where my thought process was as well. And then my next tier is kind of similar to like the Raiders-Titans tier in the AFC, but a little better. I have New Orleans at 12, the Giants at 11, and Washington at 10. So just 3 teams with promising young quarterbacks on the upswing. Any one of them could make a push, but for right now, I have them on the outside looking in. I do have New Orleans at 12. I do like Tyler Shuck a lot. I like Kellen Moore a lot. I like all the moves they made in the offseason. And then we'll see how their defense can play. And in the NFC South, any team could win it. So the Saints might have the best playoff chance of these 3 teams. With the Giants, I do have them at 11, and I do have cause for concern, similar to you said, with the injuries. We don't know if Malik Neighbors is going to be healthy to start the year. Jackson Dart has shown a propensity to take unnecessary hits and already has had some concussion issues. And
Crane eater.
Yeah, and Cam Scadaboo is just, I don't even know what's up with him, bashing his head against the walls.
In the locker somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like Juggernaut from X-Men.
This is kind of where we get caught up and kind of find some symmetry. Obviously, my South winner is maybe it's not obvious, but I'm just going to let it out. Carolina was my South winner. It sounds like Tampa's probably yours. But otherwise, we have the same group of teams up till 10. So I had New Orleans at 13, Tampa at 12, Minnesota at 11, and Washington at 10 as well. Struggled to not want to include Washington in the next tier, but it's going to have to come after we see Jaden Daniels healthy again.
Yeah, exactly. I almost put the Giants ahead of them, honestly. I was really close. I mean, the Giants' defensive line is just their defensive front is crazy.
True.
I know they traded Dexter Lawrence, but I mean, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, they just have like a relentless like bevy of pass rushers.
And if everybody's healthy on both teams, I would, without a doubt, I would without a doubt have to agree with you that the Giants should finish higher than Washington. But
is Jameis Winston still their backup?
I
hope so.
Probably, yeah. So. He's the league's better when he's holding clipboards.
100%, man. I love that guy. Always have. He's so sick. I thought he was going to be like a Hall of Famer when he came in the NFL. I thought he was so nasty. And honestly, I'm not even mad at how his career panned out at all.
No, he's a viral Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's a locker room Hall of Fame guy.
Yeah, you could search Jameis Winston on YouTube and find entertainment for at least an hour and a half.
He's so awesome. He's the best. I can't wait to see that guy in commentary after his career is over.
Oh my God, that'd be good. I wish they'd link him up with.
He's gonna be running the show on Tubi or something, and I'm gonna be in tune. Right? Yeah, for sure. They're not about to have him on Fox. I do have Washington at 10, though. I think they do have the highest upside of all these teams. And when I look at these teams and I'm trying to make these projections as teams with young quarterbacks, trying to get to that next level, we've already seen it with Washington, and that's why I have them at the top. For sure. They have an NFC Championship appearance already.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that in Jaden Daniels' rookie season, he took him to an NFC Championship game.
Seriously, really, I know. So I had to give them the nod there. I if you could see my list, I have a bunch of scribbles in just this spot because I moved these teams around so much.
The bottom half of the NFC is a lot more competitive than the bottom half of the AFC.
Oh, 100%.
Makes perfect sense.
I would watch any of these teams play at any point in time. I would have a hard time turning on some of these games in the AFC.
For sure.
Moving to my next tier, though, similar to the same tier in the AFC, this is like my wild card teams. Yeah. I have Green Bay at 9, San Francisco at 8, Dallas at 7, and Detroit at 6.
Okay, so I've got some similarities with you here. So I have Green Bay at 9 as well. I've got Seattle at 8, missing the playoffs.
Ooh.
Yeah. Detroit at 7, and San Francisco at 6.
Detroit at 7, San Francisco at 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of those NFC West teams have to miss it, right? Basically. I think that...
So for me, this is kind of where I went back into the strength of schedule. Seattle going into the season is facing the fourth toughest schedule of the season. And ironically, they are tied with New England for the fourth most likely team to make the playoffs at minus 225. Just something about that tough division, something about a tough schedule ahead of them. Losing Kenneth Walker and Clint Kubiak is not going to be something that
for sure
you can just forget about.
I do totally expect their offense to take a step back.
Yeah.
I think that Mike McDonald and that defense, I just don't really see that going anywhere for me personally.
For sure.
And I think with San Francisco, like I said, I kind of was just like, all right, I can't have both the AFC West and NFC West have three teams in the playoffs. I can't do that. So one of those NFC West teams had to miss, and I just had to go with San Francisco just because I think that there's just they just don't have enough going for them. I mean, when we think about the San Francisco teams of the past, 5, 6, 7 years and all the talent they had and how stacked they were, I mean, half those guys are gone or past their prime. I mean, we're looking at George Kittle entering age 32, 33, coming off another injury. I mean, their wide receivers are Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall, and Christian Kirk. Any one of those guys could go down at any minute, and no one would be surprised. Deshaun Stribling. Yeah, their draft class was pretty questionable. On top of that, Christian McCaffrey, we're kind of concerned about him at this point entering his age 30 season. And then just some of the guys on defense. I mean, Fred Warner hasn't really been healthy. They just don't really seem to have that same level of defense that we've seen. I mean, Nick Bosa hasn't been the guy that he has been when he came into the league as well. So I just have too many questions with San Francisco. And I am a believer in the electromagnetic station theory outside of the San Francisco practice facility. I mean, there's just too many coincidences, man. Something about those electromagnetic fields just tearing away at the linings of these guys' knees. I don't know what it is, but Harvard needs to figure it out. NASA, somebody, I don't know. Because it's ruining our fantasy teams.
It totally does make sense, though. I mean, McCaffrey being on the older side. I think for me, placing San Francisco at 6 here is more of a Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get that. I do.
Right. Not to diminish the Mike McDaniel point, because it's really like you said, it's kind of either or. There's no way that 6 Western Division teams are making the playoffs.
It's just it's just like the odds of that happening are just so low. I just couldn't even get myself to do it.
Yeah. Otherwise, though, San Francisco's got a slightly lighter schedule, tied for 13th in strength of schedule. Still top half of the league of odds to make the playoffs. It's kind of a dice roll on them on my part. I think that I just kind of favor San Francisco. Just
you trust Kyle Shanahan, and they're for sure they're like the face of consistency. One of those teams in the league. I get that for sure. Who'd you have 7 and 6? You had Detroit and
San Francisco was 7 and 6.
Okay, who was 8?
Seattle. 8 was Seattle.
And then we both had Green Bay at 9. Gotcha. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that NFC North division is a little too competitive for me, and I just don't think that Green Bay's done enough to keep up with the Bears and the Lions, really. I mean, the Lions had a down year, but most of it was injury-laden. I mean, with Sam Laporta back, the offensive line hopefully healthy, and the biggest one being Aiden Hutchinson healthy. I expect the Lions to kind of make another run at it.
Not to mention they lost their offensive coordinator last year, so there's a little bit of an adjustment going through.
For sure, losing Ben Johnson, 100%.
Especially with how much credit we're willing and eager to give him for the success of the Bears.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely worth mentioning, 100%. And then just like with Green Bay, I feel like they lost some guys and didn't really do much to add any guys. And not to mention Micah Parsons missing half the season doesn't really help either.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, I think he's on track to come back at the start of the season, but that was a pretty gruesome injury. You hope that he comes back healthy and 100%, but
you might not see a healthy Micah Parsons till November.
Right, which is half the year. So that could definitely be enough to affect where they end up in the season standings. Yeah.
I do have Dallas in this tier, though. I mean, apparently you have them a little higher, which I think is interesting because I wasn't sure how I guess you would view them. I thought that maybe I was sneaking them in. I think Dallas is great, honestly. I mean, the Dallas and the Bengals have like such similar parallels, and I have them both in the 7 spot in both conferences. They're just like have two of the most electric offenses in the league, and if their defenses can just become even slightly below average.
Right. What's holier than Swiss cheese? Because it's the Bengals and Dallas 2025 defenses.
Seriously. But I do like a lot. I mean, the Bengals did a lot on the defensive side of the ball as well in free agency and Dexter Lawrence, but so did Dallas. Quinnen Williams should be healthy. They drafted Malachi Lawrence and Caleb Downs. They had a few more guys in free agency, 100% for the secondary. They traded for D. Winters, linebacker from San Francisco. So they did make a lot of additions on that side of the ball. And like I said, if they could just get to like slightly below average, I think they'll be extremely competitive. Like I said, Dak Prescott, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. They have arguably the best wide receivers, 1-2 punch in the league, and the only other one really is the Bengals. So I almost thought about having Dallas win the division, if I'm being honest with you. I ended up going with Philly, obviously, but it was close for me.
Well, let's get on to the divisions and the 5, right? I don't think you told me 5.
My 5 was Seattle. I do think Seattle's still going to make the playoffs. I think that Mike McDonald is a phenomenal coach, and I think that their defense is good enough to keep them there. But, moving into my top 4, I do have Tampa Bay winning the division. I know you said you had Carolina. I just think that I don't know. I think that Tampa Bay made some additions on the defensive side of the ball, notably Ruben Bain. If they can get an actual solid pass rush, I think that'll do wonders for them. I mean, and like I said, I think that we saw the first half of the season we were talking about Baker Mayfield MVP, and then injuries set in, whether it was the offensive line or Mike Evans or Egbuka or Baker himself. But I think a healthy Tampa Bay team, I think they should be able to win that division personally. And I think that Baker just has a huge chip on his shoulder, and he's playing for a new contract. I just think they have every reason to go out there and just play super hard. And, and they might only win 9 games, but that would be good enough for the division, in my opinion. And then I have Eagles at 3, Bears at 2, and then I have the Rams at 1. Yeah.
All right. So at 5, I have Philly as the first team out of the division. The division winners. A little bit concerned with what a new offensive coordinator is going to look like, although it seems like almost anything is going to help them improve, as well as the subtraction of A.J. Brown that might bring a little bit more clarity within like the pecking order of the it's kind of funny. It's like less is more almost sometimes. Yeah, although I do have them at 5, like I mentioned. Carolina at 4, Dallas at 3. And then, like you, Chicago and the Rams rounding out 2 and 1. I like what Carolina did with their offseason. I mean, I like Ted McMillan a lot too. I know that they are definitely designed to kind of ground and pound. I mean, their team motto is keep pounding. But
no, I hear you. Honestly, you have it pulled up because I think without really looking super hard for it all, actually. I think part of my reasoning for putting them last was just that, like, I think all these teams are around the same talent level, and I just kind of assumed that they would have the hardest schedule since they won the division last year.
They do. So I'll give you all 4 of the teams real fast. Carolina's got the 17th toughest schedule. Atlanta's tied for 22. Tampa Bay is 26, and New Orleans is the 30. Okay. None of these teams have a top half hardest schedule in the league.
That's because obviously they play each other.
right. And for whatever reason, just with the way these numbers look up, I have a feeling they play the AFC South as well, but that could be wrong. I don't know that for sure.
That'd be interesting.
I mean, how many of those games are you going to watch?
Can't wait to turn on Atlanta, Indy.
Tennessee, I like what Dallas has offensively. I think CeeDee Lamb had a down year, and
Atlanta Indy's going to be in Germany for sure.
If they're lucky, banish that to
if we're lucky.
YouTube or something. If we're lucky. So I do have Dallas at 3. I like I think CeeDee Lamb's in line for a big bounce back year. They paid Javonte Williams, so now they're going to have some consistency in the backfield, and just the upgrades on defense. I think it's enough to complement such a high-powered offense that I feel better about their chances of usurping Philly than I do Cincinnati taking over the division and beating up Baltimore.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, and then the 2 and 1, again, we've been kind of banging the table for it all year. Why isn't Chicago getting more respect for the season they put up? And we kind of covered it. It's late game heroics. It's a couple close games, but just a second season for Caleb Williams to work under Ben Johnson, who
100%.
we all kind of respect as like an elite offensive game planner. It just all the weapons around. It makes a lot of sense for them to continue and kind of set up their own version of a dynasty. Who knows if they'll win some titles or not, but they will definitely be a competitive team for years and years to come.
I agree, and they made some additions on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
I know they signed Devin Bush, and oh my goodness, white boy safety. What's his name, Bleck? My guy.
Oh, Dylan Thieneman.
Thieneman. I couldn't think of the last name. Yeah, it's my guy. How could I forget? I think that there was some of the additions on the defensive side of the ball, and most notably, like you said, just year 2 of Ben Johnson. I mean, I don't know why in year 1 they're barely winning close games. You think in year 2 they're going to get worse? They're going to be easily winning these close games. I don't really see why we're going the other way on that one.
That coin's going to be weighted.
Yeah. I have the same there. And like I said, I did have a pretty hard time with Dallas and the Eagles. I agree with everything you said for sure.
Yeah.
I think that I just got one more year of this Eagles team, and I do think that their defense is good enough, and their coaching staff has done it year in, year out. Multiple ways they found ways to win, and they probably have the best front office in the NFL.
That's the ticket for me.
And like you said too, there is the question at the offensive coordinator, but I think that almost anything will be better than what they were doing on offense last year.
Right. Yeah, just giving credit to Philly's front office. They always seem to make, draft picks and even like certain free agent acquisitions that are preparing for the year to come, not the year that's in front of them, but filling holes that don't exist yet before they become holes. And
yes, that's a good way to say it.
The Mekhi Lemon pick, it probably won't pay off immediately if you're drafting him in whatever 5th, 6th, 7th round that he's going in. But by midway through the season, we're all going to see why the team traded up into the first round.
Totally agree. Like I talked about him a bunch in the offseason. He was probably my favorite wide receiver in the draft. And I think that's an underrated pickup. Everyone's too focused on the loss of A.J. Brown and not enough on some of those pickups there. Eli Stowers, another one as well.
Huge on him in Dynasty. Love him as an asset.
I agree. And then, Rams, I think, is just undisputed one. You know what? I when I was making this, I kind of was like, I can't have the Bills and Rams at 1. I mean, they're probably I don't know if the Bills are the favorite. Rams got to be the favorite, but the Bills are probably the favorite or close to with the Ravens, I assume.
Yeah, so the Rams are 1 overall, the most likely to make the playoffs at minus 460. The Ravens are second at minus 390, and then the Bills at 320.
Okay, I don't know if that's necessarily an indicator of who's
it's just
most
to make
likely.
Playoffs.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, I think okay. I mean that guy, whatever. Bills and Ravens are 1 and 2 no matter what.
And Bills Ravens in the AFC for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a hard time putting them at number 1 because I was just like, it's kind of the two favorites almost never get it, but
right.
I mean the Rams have to. I mean this Rams team might be, I think one of if not the best roster I've ever seen in my life. It's actually absurd.
And just an extra little tip in their cap for all of the projections and expectations going into this year, they have the 3rd hardest schedule going into the season as well.
Yeah,
but they are the most. They have the highest win total, and they are more likely than the Ravens in this example, who share the same win total. They're more likely to hit the over on that number. Absolutely.
Their strength of schedule is just going to be juiced by their division, obviously.
For sure, yeah. The whole division's pretty juiced, other than San Francisco, who's tied for 13th. But yeah.
Oh, really? That's interesting. The Cardinals have a worse strength of schedule.
The Cardinals have the hardest schedule in the league.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense because the other teams are they have the 3-win Cardinals on their schedule twice. Yeah, and these guys just have a bunch of 12-win teams on their schedules twice.
Right. And San Francisco finished 3rd in the division, so they have a little bit lighter schedule than the Rams.
I gotcha. That all makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Rams by far easy number 1 overall. I don't really see a path for them to not get there. Even Matthew Stafford going down, which I would not plan on.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the Ty Simpson draft pick could even bail them out of that worst case scenario.
It would, just with the way that the Rams tend to just not really miss a beat.
Yeah, I mean, they're just pulling guys out of a hat and turning them into superstars, like whether that's, Puka or Kyron Williams or some of these guys. That was pretty interesting. It was kind of funny how similar they were without us even really talking about it at all. I thought there was going to be a lot more disparity, to be honest.
Yeah, no, me too. I think it's kind of funny. We both had New England on the outside looking in. Similar approach to just can't overload the NFC with too many teams in the West in the playoffs. And how the bottom half of the NFC is really just a mixed bag of a bunch of teams.
It's really tough to rank. It really is splitting hairs with a lot of those teams there. And even I have Carolina at 15, but you could convince me to get them up to 10, honestly, easily. I don't know if I'm putting them over Green Bay, San Francisco, some of those teams, but I mean, I could totally see a scenario where they're,
It's the South, man. One of those teams has to win the division. We've seen that rule be enforced.
It's been like that for so long, man. It's actually crazy. So long.
It's been like that since it was the NFC West that was that way when the Rams were still in St. Louis.
Yeah, for sure. That was the beast quake.
The Matt Hasselbeck days.
Yeah, all the above. As we wrap it up here, as we move through the rest of the off season, we're going to do a couple more episodes like this. I know we want to do an episode talking about some futures lines, some player props, stuff like that, kind of appeal more to some of the betting audience. Bleck and I like to dabble in that as well and here in our spare time. But moving into August and the end of July, we definitely want to focus more on fantasy, getting ready for the fantasy draft seasons. 90% of people that are playing fantasy are doing their drafts in August. So we want to focus on some of the tiers of positional groups, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, going over some of our sleepers, maybe by round, all the above. So anyone that's listening, stay tuned for all of that, getting ready for August. We're going to be promoting a lot more during that time, as it is, like I said, prime fantasy season.
Can't wait. It feels like it's here.
Yeah, I know. I actually got to send out some texts. I'm looking on Cameo now for who's going to announce the draft order for the 2QB league this year.
Yeah, the 2QB 14-man League of Chaos.
League of Gentlemen.
Yeah.
As always, thanks for listening, and go Bills.